Good evening and welcome to the Minions of the Zoo. I'm your host and keeper of the Harry Channel, and with me tonight are minions Serenity Star 13.
Hello.
And SkepTok.
Hi, everybody.
So how's it, you've had like a whole week of air conditioning, right, Skep?
Oh my God, it's been glorious. It's been averaging about 105 to 108 degrees every day is the high. And I mean, it's so hot, it only gets down to 80 degrees at night.
Yeah.
You know, it is really, truly obnoxiously hot. And yes, I love the new, boy, what a great time to have a brand spanking new air conditioning system. You know, the whole thing. It's awesome.
So
$13,000 worth of greatness.
So the natives that your people stole the land from,
Yes.
how did they cope with this heat?
They just dealt. You know, the thing of it was, we didn't even have air conditioning when I was growing up. We came back from Belgium in 1963, drove in an unair conditioned car from New Jersey to Bayman, Alabama, which is in southern Alabama. It's almost on the Gulf Coast, and from thence drove across the south to Waco, Texas, where my mom was from, and thence on to Colorado Springs, where my dad had been transferred to from his post in Brussels. And it was that was a hot trip. I'm here to tell you, in unair conditioned cars all the way across that, 3 raving kids, you know, in one station wagon, and you know, that was really something. That was an amazing trip. I saw so many things that trip. Going through North Carolina, I remember seeing a drinking fountain, and it said for coloreds. And I asked my dad, "What is that?" And he said, basically said, "It's stupidity. I'll explain later." You know, and then he told me, you know, what it was and what it was from, and all about that. We talked about that quite a bit on that.
Yeah.
But man, that was a hot trip. Boy, without air conditioning this time of year, back then as now, it's hot.
Yeah, you might catch rhythm or soul or something, you know, if you use the wrong water fountain. I mean, just think of all the things that could happen.
You know, my dad's point was that, you know, he always taught us that this was the time when we had to change from thinking about black people the way that his parents and his forebears had thought about them, to, you know, a much more liberal way of thinking, you know, of treating everybody equally and making that a legal reality, which shamefully would not do for a long time.
Yeah, I really honestly do my best to treat everybody at least respectably. Even sometimes if some homeless person comes up to me and just starts getting ready to hassle me, right? Yeah. I will be as cordial as I would be to literally anybody else initially, and then I will very cordially say no. I did have an exception happen the other day. I stopped to get gas. And I had my eye on this guy the second I pulled into the gas station. Like, this little bastard might be trouble. Just a little dude. Just a little dude. Like they're
the worst.
I can't say I felt physically intimidated, but he had that Pepe Le Pew energy about him or something. Yeah. And he just walked up to me in my blind spot, but I knew he was there because I was keeping an eye on the little bastard, and just said, "Got any dollars?" I reacted just like that. I just turned around and said, "Not for you. Go away." I'm just like, what the hell? And then I thought, this can't be this guy's shtick. So I'm trying to pump gas, and of course I don't have 360-degree vision. So this guy keeps skirting around in my blind spot again, and I'm like, is this guy gonna shiv me and take my wallet? I need to keep my head on a swivel. And at some point he walked away, and then I heard off in the distance, "Got any dollars?" I'm just like, oh God.
He's hassling somebody else.
Yeah, this is this guy's shtick, apparently.
Yeah.
Just,
you know, what we do down here, and it's a popular thing. Guy comes up and hassles you like that at a gas station. spend a little money to teach them a lesson. And that is, you flick a whole bunch of gasoline all over them, just soak them down with gasoline and brandish
Gas
a
ain't cheap,
cigarette
Skep.
lighter.
Gas is not cheap.
I know, but this is the look on his face would be worth the investment. When you pull out a cigarette lighter and you walk toward him, he will not hassle you anymore.
It's a very
I'm just saying,
Daniel Craig Bond villain kind of way of going about things, Skep.
Yes,
I introduce you to my chair. Well, seems to be missing some anyway.
Yes,
so
right.
Hi, Serenity.
Hello.
How are things with you?
I'm good.
The great state of West Virginia, things are nice.
We're doing good so far.
Are
Nothing
you
too major around here.
Are you east of most of the nasty heat?
So far the most we've gotten up to this year is about 90 something. I think we got up to 98. That's not including heat index, but we're not going into that. We're going into what the temperatures said it was.
Yeah.
But, and for the most part, it's been nasty. It's mostly the humidity that screws us. If it's a dry heat, it'd be fine around here because we almost always have a breeze because the mountains and the river have to do a lot with that. But we also have a brand new air conditioner. So know what that's like. But ours has been doing really well. And it could be a lot worse. The animals are doing fine, which is all I care about.
That's good. I feel like you sort of dodged a bullet with the whole quarantine and all that sort of stuff. I'm glad everybody turned out to be okay.
Yeah, mostly my mom's just older. That was all it was. And to be fair, it didn't seem like, how do I say this nicely? She wasn't going out that much. I was, but at the same time, I wasn't that scared, mostly just because West Virginia, there's a whole bunch of other shit that can kill you.
Yeah.
So
Priorities.
COVID was not good. I'm not saying it was, but it was one of those things where it's kind of like, the horrible flooding that used to come around when I was a kid, that could have killed me, didn't kill me.
Yep.
I had chicken pox twice, that could have killed me, that didn't kill me.
Ugh.
So it's like, come at me at this point, fuck it.
How old were you the first time you got chicken pox?
I had a very mild case when I was my mom said I was about 8 to 9 months old. And then when I was 6, I got a real bad case.
Yeah.
I still had chicken pox scars on my face from where I scratched.
15 years old. I was 15 when I got chicken pox.
Ooh.
It was not a happy.
That sucks.
It was.
Oh, that sucks.
It was not a happy time, and I still have scars from that too. Every now and then, I'll pick up a little bit of sun and go, "Huh? Why is that spot on my arm still perfectly white? Oh,
right.
Chicken pox.
There's no melanin in it.
Yep.
Yep.
I need every little bit of melanin I can get, man. It's just, I'm pretty challenged in that department.
Are you fairly complected?
Yes, I skip straight from tan all the way to stroke most of the time. Just go.
Gotcha.
I just skip all the intermediate steps and just go straight to being ill.
Yeah,
I'm weird. Yeah. I'm fair ivory colored basically, but the most I ever get is pink, and that's about the extent of it. And then it's gone in 2 days. I've never had a sunburn.
Oh well, okay.
And I was an outdoor kid.
We have time. There's only 3 of us here.
Yeah, I know.
Once, gosh, I think it was in 4th grade or 6th grade. I went to a friend's house, and they had a pool, and it was near the end of spring, beginning of summer, and school was just about to be out. And I'm just being a dumb kid, didn't know any better, and I swam in the pool all day. I got so sunburned, they had to wrap me like a mummy.
Yep.
And
My friends have that problem.
that was fun. That made elementary school graduation fun.
Yuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You had a graduation from elementary school?
Yeah.
Yep. I did too.
Awesome.
Fancy,
Wow.
I know.
Wow.
Well, I mean, it's not like it means anything, but it's just a, bon voyage, have fun at middle school. Oh, by the way, everybody's going to try to kill you. Because all the shitty kids are going to be there. It was weird getting to middle school. It was the first time I'd ever seen 2 Hispanic girls try to kill each other by yanking each other's hair out. It's like, holy shit, what am I looking at? Women aren't supposed to act like this. Really? These women were hard.
Well, they're Latina.
Again, most Latinas don't do this. These were the bad girls. These were the
Yeah, they're
bad
probably
girls.
cholas.
They were a lot of things. Anyway.
Do you know it's never been 100 degrees in the Virgin Islands?
Okay.
That's
be
hard to
nice.
believe, isn't it?
Well, it is surrounded by
their high
ocean.
temperature of all time. Yeah, their high temperature of all time in Charlotte Amalie is 99 degrees.
Sounds like someone's
Well.
tipping the scales.
Be that as it may, bad news that we got today was Bob Barker passed away.
Yes.
Now, is he before your time, Serenity?
Oh no! Whenever I'd get sick and stay home, Price is Right would be on. Is one of the staples of being a sick kid at home was watching Price is Right.
Yeah, absolutely. That's part of the deal. You get sick and it may be miserable, but at least you can watch The Price is Right.
Yep.
I saw on one of the articles where people were talking about him passing away, saying, well, he died at 99. And they said, well, you know, he got as close to $1 as he could without going over.
Exactly.
It's like,
Yeah.
okay. Well, he was he was a big animal rights supporter, or, prevention of cruelty to animals, I should say.
Yes.
Not quite the same thing. So it was, spay and neuter your pets, take care of them, that sort of thing, not crazy PETA sort of stuff.
Right.
And he was not afraid to make fun of himself, as was evident from cameos and things like Happy Gilmore.
Right.
So
Oh, yeah.
you didn't get the impression that he took himself too seriously.
No.
That's what made him fun.
He was also a Navy air pilot. Did you know that? He landed planes on aircraft carriers.
Wow.
He flew several different kinds of propeller-driven craft. He got out of training just too late, just barely too late for World War II, and otherwise he probably would have been flying torpedo planes in the Pacific.
Well, flying toward the end would be much better than flying in the beginning.
Oh, for real.
Oh God!
Think about
Coral Sea.
Think about flying. Well, think about flying a TBM at Midway.
Yeah,
all those guys got killed.
There's no part of any of that that's good, or the survival rate in the East European theater. It's all bad.
Absolutely,
all
exactly
bad.
Right.
Anyway, but yeah, Bob Barker passed away, which kind of makes me sad. But he made it to 99.
Yeah.
It seems like, except for a few allegations, which always end up coming your way once you're a guy with enough power. I don't know if he's guilty or not, but there were some claims that were made. Cash prizes were awarded to some of the claimants. It's one of those things. So maybe he wasn't a saint, but as far as I can tell, he was a stand-up guy, and I think he's going to be missed. I mean, cultural icon passing away it's kind of a thing.
He had like 16 years of retirement too.
Yeah,
because he left The Price is Right when he was like in his 80s.
A life that long. He was married to Dorothy Jo Gideon for 36 years. She died in 1981.
wow.
Yeah, think about that. He's 40 years without, and that he never remarried. He never, he only ever loved her. It's quite a story, actually.
He's probably adopting 50 pets a month, so you're never never really lonely in that state.
At least he died with a little bit, I'm hoping, a little bit more dignity than Stan Lee did, because he wasn't having all that shit happen to him toward the end of his life because people were taking advantage of him. So he got to die with a little bit more dignity.
As far as I know. But the important thing is, this next thing that I'm going to talk about reminds me of something. So we don't need to say what it reminds us of, okay? This is a way of talking about a thing without talking about a thing.
Knowing look, nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
Sign the citation, or I take you to jail for failing to sign the citation.
Oh, no.
This is titled, Mayor Caught Using Police Against Election Rival.
He comes with me to jail.
The police came after my truck simply because I was supporting the mayor's opponent.
William Fambro is a longtime resident and activist in East Cleveland. When he was campaigning for the challengers to a city's incumbent mayor,
Calvin.
police use obscure ordinances they rarely or never
you.
enforce to target, tow, and severely damage his truck.
That's terrible, isn't it? The government using ordinances that they rarely ever enforce to suppress political opponents and their supporters.
Yes.
That is absolutely
shocking.
shocking.
Thing to do.
That
would
is
be a
shocking.
terrible thing in principle.
I can't imagine that something like that would happen in our America.
That's horrible.
Is it?
I'm glad it's only this isolated incident.
Yeah. Hopefully this will serve as a cautionary tale. Yeah, a warning.
Sure, a warning.
Yeah. This would never happen at the federal level. Or
No, thank goodness.
oh God, no.
Oh, we'd be in trouble then.
I assume you're as surprised as we are, Serenity.
I'm just gonna sit here in silence. I'm just gonna.
So you recognize
keeping
that
my mouth
guy from the Institute for Justice?
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of Institute for Justice because they have a tendency to be like anyone and be a little inflated at times. Let's put it that way.
They occasionally don't use their critical thinking hat when they should.
Yeah.
I actually have a thing further on where we were going to talk about something. I'm like, well, you know what? I'm not bound to any particular order. We could just talk about that now. Hold on, let's see here. It's way past otters and space news and everything. It's just all the way down here under law and crime.
You mad son of a bitch.
I know.
You scamp. You rebel.
Let's see. Oakland. Okay, so let's watch this. Now see if there's anything that seems remotely sus about this.
The city demolished a man's home. He says he got no warning. Now they want him to pay for the demolition.
Insult to injury, it was mind-blowing. I was flabbergasted.
New developments at 6, the legal battle and why he fears the city could seize his property before his day in court.
Live.
Okay, anything about that just feel off to you?
Yeah. I feel like something's not being said.
Don't you feel like there's a piece of this that's missing? Just a little
tiny bit.
Little something.
So like,
this story got picked up by Reason. Okay, so Reason picked this up and said, you pay for our mistake. First the city of Atlanta demolished a house owned by Everett Tripodis, 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 without properly informing him. Now city officials are suing him to recoup the $68,000 they claim to have spent tearing down the house. Okay,
right,
so
my question is, properly informing him.
Yeah, you picked up on
what
that.
Is the properly what is properly informing?
Well, let me tell you what happened, because this was a head scratcher for me. Now, his house was basically condemned by the city. Now, in some of the things where people, the news are covering, they're saying, oh, it's terrible, they tore down the wrong house. That's not what they did. They sent the notices saying we're going to tear down your house to the wrong address, which is a slightly different thing. So his house was condemned. He was not given the notice he should have been given. Okay, that part is definitely true. But they did not tear down the wrong house. And after the city, at their own expense, tore down this condemned property, they're basically sending him a bill, which is the thing that they do. That's what cities do. This is the city of Atlanta, by the way.
Well, I mean, Atlanta's Atlanta.
Atlanta's Atlanta. So one more little piece. So that man has such a distinctive name that I thought I might do a search to see if I could find out more. And I ran across this from, it's I think 2018. Yes. Lawyer among 6 charged in high-end theft ring from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Now, there are a number of people named here, an attorney, but one of the people named in this who was part of the theft ring, they were stealing cars like from Mercedes dealerships and that sort of thing, was Mr. Tripodis. So the fast-talking guy wearing the suit who was complaining about his condemned house getting burned down also happens to have been involved in a high-end Mercedes and luxury car theft ring just a few years ago.
No, somebody with the same name. That's a common name.
Yeah, it's definitely a common name. No, it's almost certainly the same guy. And but the way the news picked up on it, they took what this guy said sort of at face value and very uncritically talked about it. Even Reason did not do a very good job of covering this. Now,
Reason's not. They're okay, like 60% of the time, but then they have just the weirdest takes on things, and I'm sitting there going, "Did you pay an intern who doesn't make any money to do this? Like, what happened here?"
Let's see.
But it's just like my whole thing is like, well, how do we know for sure that they actually that he didn't get? Because why did the person who was at the address? because the address also probably would have been on, because I've seen enough city documents and dealt with enough of that after my grandmother died to know that they repeat the address constantly in the internal documents.
They were very similar addresses, but they were on completely different streets. It wasn't just that the street number was off, you know.
Well, I know, but still, it's one of those things where it's like, if you're sitting there going, well, is my house getting, why is my house getting demolished? You go to city goes, oh no, that's not who it is. It's like, oh, so are you going to send another notice out? Did the other person at the other address never just talk to City Hall?
And the guy is allowed to not be home, but you would think at some point during this process he might have noticed a noise, a thumping. It's just there's some weird. It's one of those things, like, not saying it couldn't have happened. It's just, it's weird because, like, especially if it's a well established and older neighborhood, there's a busybody in that neighborhood who would have heard something. Now, there may be, this is above my pay grade when it comes to legal stuff. There may be something about the fact that he was not given proper notification that makes them demolishing that property unlawful, and ergo sending him a bill ridiculous. But the way it was being covered, the city tore down this poor man's house, and it was the wrong house. No, you people are idiots, and you're not paying attention.
Yes. Yeah. There's like, so much wrong with this. Maybe what they did, they certainly made an error in sending the notice to the wrong house. But by the time your house gets torn down, you know very bloody well what's going on. This guy knew what was going on. This is a bunch of bullshit, in my opinion.
And also, the house was declared condemned, so it wasn't eminent domain. So it's not like he's making money off an eminent domain thing.
Yeah. This is not a money-making thing.
Well, no, it's just, it's weird because it's kind of like, so he obviously wasn't living in the house if it was labeled condemned.
No telling.
Well, he could have been living in the house, but the fact that he didn't notice that they were about to tear it down, this isn't just a sudden thing. You don't just roll up one afternoon and suddenly the house isn't there.
Well, you're good, like you said, you're going to hear something like the
he wasn't living there.
Beep of the backing up of the truck. Like, if you're going to hear something, go, what the hell?
Yeah. So I noticed Hammer's actually in the audience. Hi, Hammer.
Hello, Hammer.
There's another thing coming up, which I did a little bit of sleuthing and was able to uncover something about a thing that was in the news just today. And I think Hammer's going to find this interesting. So if you can, stick around for this, because I think you will find this very interesting, as well as a number of other people. Let me skip to that. All right, so I saw this tweet today because Dr. J. Bhattacharya is, he's a good dude. That is coming up in completely the wrong browser. Let me fix that.
What are we looking at here?
Okay, so J. Bhattacharya, Santa Clara County Public Health spied on Calvary Church using cell phone geolocation company SafeGraph data. There's a lot of weight to these words. The company just announced that this use of data violated its terms of service. Ooh. I'm going to tell you later why this is BS, okay? The church still faces $1.2 million in fines from the county for worshiping. So it says further.
Well, this was back during
the pandemic. So further, SafeGraph has no direct involvement or knowledge of the dispute between Santa Clara County and Calvary Chapel Church. Based on public reporting, it is SafeGraph's understanding that our data was not used, nor was it functionally capable of being used as part of Santa Clara's alleged proactive compliance oversight activities. Rather, our data was used only in litigation proceedings after Santa Clara commenced an enforcement action, yada, yada, yada. SafeGraph had no prior knowledge of and does not approve of the use of our data. Using the data in this way is not authorized, blah, 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 blah. Which begs the question. Sorry.
We spied on, our data was used to spy on you after, not during.
But to my mind, the question is how? Okay. Yeah. How is it possible that this happened? Because I know maybe some people take this for granted, but there's all sorts of mechanisms out there that should prevent something like this from happening. So this piqued my curiosity.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. So
what's going on?
I did a little bit of a search on SafeGraph, not so SafeGraph. So this is from 2022. Location tracker reveals to sell data on abortion clinics' clients. think that your innocent-looking weather app is not tracking you on your way to a doctor's appointment? Well, maybe it's true, but you can't be so sure nowadays. Let's assume that it does track you, but then what becomes of all that data? Surely it's not falling into the hands of some third-party actors that are abusing it.
Yes, it is.
Long story short, it's down here at the bottom. So how exactly does SafeGraph get access to users' location data? The answer is in plain sight. The company harvests this sensitive information from the apps that use its software development kit, SDK. Yeah. App developers are fond of SDKs because they make their life easier, allowing them to cut costs on developing their own features, blah, 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 blah. So if you create an app that uses geolocation and you want a database of points of interest and you want to track people's interactions with points of interest, you use this SDK, software development kit. So all of the apps that have this thing are potentially gathering data on anybody who has one of their phones and sending it to anybody who has access to this API. Mm-hmm. People can query this data that's collected in this central database, and that's exactly what Santa Clara did for the purposes of their COVID enforcement. Mm-hmm. Okay. I know that this doesn't shock other people, but it shocks the ever-loving crap out of me.
Yes. The minute tagging locations things started happening with phones, I expect my entire everything I do to be tracked at this point.
But stuff like Android permissions really needs to do a better job. And we're not going to get into how you locate low energy Bluetooth devices within the range of the phone. And it's complicated, and permissions, I mean, the stuff's improving all the time. But a lot of these SDKs, when you get an app, it'll say, you know, do you share geolocation data with third parties? And if you're using one that says yes, that could be because they're using it to look something up, or it could be because they're tracking your every movement and selling it to whoever wants to buy the data. Now, to get just a taste of the tone of what SafeGraph thinks about this sort of thing, because their denial seemed a little hollow to me. Yeah. Socially determined uses SafeGraph data to advance the state of public health in a meaningful way. This is on their freaking website. This is their case study. Mm-hmm. And what they're essentially talking, I'm just going to put the link in the chat because people don't need to listen.
The state of public health in a meaningful way.
Yeah, I'm just going to put that in the chat so people can look at it.
That's 1984.
Well, what they're doing is they're claiming that for health equity, to make social justice healthcare appropriate, what they can do is they can do things like track whether people are eating the right kind of food or getting enough exercise that live in particular areas. They're taking all kinds of data sets and correlating them with people's behavior. I can't imagine how this could be misused.
No, it'll be fine.
This will be fine.
I'm just waiting for Assassin to go off.
Just wait for your insurance company to deny your claims because you've been to Fatburger too many times.
Yep. Soon we will have no need of language at all. There will be one single word.
Yeah.
You use one word and only one word to communicate the fact that the party is in charge and the party is always right.
I mean, I'm not going to bore everybody to death with this because we don't usually spend a lot of time on any one thing, but there's like hours worth of discussion on this topic.
Yes, there is.
If somebody really wanted to go into it.
If I wanted to just keep this and talk about it for a long time, not doing it on purpose.
Yeah, just if you've got crap on your phone that's tracking where you're going, you know, turn it on when you need to, force kill it when you're done with it. Don't run that crap all the time. And don't leave your geolocation data on constantly. I have a thing that monitors my tire pressure on my motorcycle so that I hopefully won't crash and burn, because it's really dangerous to have low tire pressure on a bike, right?
Yes, it is.
Bad things will happen to you. So I run this app knowing full well that it's tracking stuff that I'm doing. However, when I'm not using it, I force kill it. And I've got its permissions reined in to the point where if it tries to run in the background, it can't really do anything unless I launch it. What it's already doing is bad enough, keeping track of where I'm going and how fast I'm going and all this other sort of crap.
That data exists is offensive.
But I don't actually have a viable alternative to do anything else. And I don't particularly want to die. So I know the trade-off that I'm making. But these people got monitored in church. They literally went to church to exercise their constitutional rights to freedom of assembly and worship. And the government used, or I should say misused, this data. And because it was gathered by commercial entities, it's totally okay for the government to track people without a warrant. It's bullshit. Absolute bullshit.
Yeah.
And yeah, I am genuinely annoyed. This isn't an act. I'm not that good an actor.
This is just a tremendous overstep by government.
So let's see. Where are we in time? Oh, we're already 30 minutes in. Let's skip this because it's dumb. Well, let's see. Russia crashed another thing into the moon.
I hate it when that happens.
I know. Russia's first lunar mission in 47 years smashes into the moon.
Damsky.
Yeah, I know. Luna 25. So I did some...
And India slides into a comfortable
Oh, we're getting
third
there.
place.
So I figured I'd check out the history of the Luna program, which are their lunar probes. I mean, at least it's a good name, although... And so if you look at the mission details, you can see failure, 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 success. So they had an impactor. So something that basically they crashed into the moon on purpose, that worked. Okay, so they're very good at crashing things into the moon, either accidentally or on purpose. Flying by is okay. Failure to launch. I mean, there's a lot of pink. This is really not a great track record in the 60s, but it's hard. You know, then they had some modest success putting some things into orbit, and they actually had a lander go down in December of 1966. But the pink relative to the green in this second to the last column is pretty painful. This is not so great. They for some reason just seem to have a real problem with lunar missions, and I don't know why, because it's not that they're not technically competent. I think in some ways their system and how they work with their scientists is just sort of broken by design.
I mean, Chernobyl kind of proves that.
Among others, yes. I mean, even without reading Solzhenitsyn or Sakharov or any of that other sort of stuff, you get a pretty clear picture of what the scientific community's like in the Soviet Union. It doesn't really surprise me that they have so many scientific failures.
Yeah, no, I heard a joke that someone made a TikTok, I guess, the best way to put it, and put it on YouTube Shorts, and they were like calling it Operation Moondart.
Yeah. Well,
so bless their hearts.
But the Indians actually managed to put a rover on the moon, which is excellent. I mean, honestly, good for them. Good for them. I have no issue with that.
Once again, these are dot, not feather.
Yeah, dot, not feather.
Right.
You know, but it would be nice if they took all that casino money and used it for. Never mind.
Yeah. Casino rover. Put a casino on the moon. Boy, you talk about a moneymaker.
Yeah, you could. So it says now they're Indian tracks on the moon. I think most people probably go, yeah, sure, you know, join the club. India's a big country full of really smart people. This is generally fine, but unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, somebody I actually subscribe to on Twitter had kind of a contrary opinion, because mostly she's very contrarian. Sophie Corcoran. 2 pictures to some of India. Why do we give aid to countries who land rockets on the moon whilst being home to the biggest slum in the world and having a poverty rate of 16.4%? We may as well have just thrown money into the bin. Kind of a hot take, but she's not factually wrong.
Though. Yeah, I see where she's coming from.
No, for one thing, first of all, the entire cost of the Indian space program would probably help about 1/50th of India's poor for about a day. You are talking about 2 problems of epically different magnitude in terms of cost. What it would cost to help the poor in India is trillions of dollars. And throwing $3 or $4 billion at a space program, I don't think India's got much more than that. In that is a lot easier than doing something like solving, what amounts to an endemic problem.
You mean hundreds of millions of people living in poverty? Yeah, that's a much harder problem.
It's a much bigger problem. You can't even compare it in size.
The reason India did this, in my opinion, is because India as a brand they want to be seen as a first-class brand.
Yes,
Oh,
exactly.
yeah.
They don't. That's
exactly
part
right.
of why they did the Mars orbiter. I mean,
real
effectively,
important,
they sent a laptop with a webcam and a ham radio to Mars. It was not really a big
Rubber
venture.
bands and,
But what they were trying to show was that they were capable of doing the project management necessary to make it come off. It wasn't about technical achievement. It was about we are competent
CPM.
managers dealing with technology. And when you buy the Indian brand, you're not buying a second-rate brand. You're not buying the off-brand. It isn't the McFrugal's, partially out-of-date oatmeal cookies. This is, this is the real thing. This is just as good as the other thing. Yeah. So for them, it's a big PR thing because, I mean, they're not really doing any science that hasn't already been done. They're not pushing the boundaries. It's not like a new frontier or anything. But what they're just showing is that the Indian brand is a brand worth buying.
Right.
Yeah, it's just I hope the world does not do with India what they did with China, which is putting all the eggs in one basket and being stupid again. Because judging from the way that some people in political power in India act, they have a very easy chance of going China 2.0 and just being assholes.
I don't think that's going to happen.
I hope not, but the level of egotism in some of those, like egotism exists for everybody. I'm not stupid, but it's one of those things when I've literally heard Indians on their own national thing brag about the fact that Ford got ran out of the country and people are buying this one guy's car, the guy who owns the company that ran Ford out of the country.
Are you reading my mind, Serenity? Do you have access to my notes? Did I accidentally send them to you? Because it's uncanny the way you're predicting what I'm going to do.
Very good.
Okay, so while I've got your attention, okay, I know exactly what you're talking about. India as a caste system, right? There are a number of particularly Indian men from very high castes who are so far up their own ass about their self-importance.
Oh my God.
I know a lot of Indian people, and they're almost all really decent people. But every now and then they have to deal with somebody who's like a freaking Brahmin, or just somebody from that class.
Oh my God, yes.
Okay,
Brahmin with his head up. So I've known some Brahmins who were amazing.
Absolutely,
amazing people. But some Brahmins, yes, who are I'm a Brahmin and you're not. Oh my God.
Well, somebody started posting on the Twitter about, Isaac Newton didn't discover gravity. This guy named Shemp discovered it 500 years earlier.
I've heard that one before.
This sort of Indian guy. He also calculated the time it takes for the Earth to revolve around the sun. He was a champion among the mathematicians at his time. Hey, all due respect to the guy's mathematical abilities, that's fine. But in this particular post, this guy is Alaric the Barbarian, who I just recently started subscribing to, just sort of dismantles this thing one at a time. What Isaac Newton did was fundamentally different, just sort of going, things seem to be attracted to the Earth is not the same thing as describing the way gravity functions, how it influences orbital mechanics, describing it mathematically, all the things that Newton did. It wasn't just sitting there in an apple fell in his head and goes, oh, I guess things are attracted to other things. My head hurts. Where's some Tylenol? And there's so much of this stuff where groups of people are trying to fluff themselves up by, or somebody with my skin color invented the light bulb, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah,
and it's just
exactly.
And I don't care. It's just like, what have you personally done for this world?
Yeah, it's like just because that person shares skin color with you doesn't mean you're better.
Yeah.
Than other people with another
One thing
skin
that
color.
people
Like,
don't
calm
realize
down.
is the ancient Greeks were all black.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Only the
Don't
smart
forget
ones.
that.
The ones that didn't own slaves.
That's still the most outrageous claim that I've seen online was that ancient Greece was actually about a bunch of black people.
Well, it's like
stolen from them.
To take it back to the India thing though a little bit, like there's this one, I'm going to try to be nice, older lady who I keep seeing, who has a dot, and she keeps talking about, like, one of the big things she's always talking, Bill Gates didn't invent anything. You know the lady I'm talking about? If you've been on social media, you've probably seen her stupid videos where she has like people eating it. But it's like no one, like, okay, Bill Gates he still created a big company, whether you like it or not, lady.
Also, he wrote an operating system for an Altair one summer.
Yeah,
well, I mean,
yeah.
That wasn't a bad metaphor.
Well, I mean, honestly, Edison didn't invent half the shit that he has patents on. Edison and
he was just there.
And Edison was wrong about a lot of stuff often too. Again, the same with Gates. He's wrong about a lot of stuff. A lot of Gates was. We've talked about this before. And I've told the apocryphal tale about how Digital Research lost the contract for the operating system for the IBM PC. We don't need to rehash that. But
that's so funny because I'm usually the one who gets hassled for telling that story. I love that someone else tells that story too. My family is very obnoxious when I.
I know, but anyway, we all know about groups of these people around the world, like the sort of the hardcore Jewish supremacist types. They're the ones usually the Zionists. They have this group of nitwits, and there are a handful of idiot white supremacists and a handful of melanated supremacists, and the we was kings and stuff. And it's all so very tiresome because you pointed a lot of these people making these claims. It's like, what have you personally done? Nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, I've told people, you guys on the panel, what I've done, some of the things that make me go, I feel like my existence wasn't a complete waste of time. I've mentioned them after the show. I can't dox myself. But, I've done things that I feel like my time on this planet has actually been worthwhile. And I know of good things that both of you have done. But these idiots who just talk all day, it's like a stolen valor kind of thing anyway. So what? What if it's true? What does that have to do with you?
Yeah.
What does any of this have to do with you? All right, well, I'm just ranting. Moving on.
Well, I mean, and that's the thing. It's like awesome. Someone did something. That's nice.
Yeah.
Can we do something with it?
Well, Newsweek. China's
China.
Mars rover animation appears to copy NASA video shot for shot. Now, this is back from 2021, but that's okay. It's new to me, so maybe it's new to you. Now, I actually find it hard to get super worked up about this because they were essentially copying our technology using our sequence of events to land their thing, which was a copy of our thing, which meant that it had to go through the same steps. So the fact that the animation describing how it worked is similar to the point of being a ripoff, I almost don't care. It's just, I mean, this to me seems like, of course it is. They were copying us, so of course their animation looks the same because it did the same thing.
It does kind of bring to the point.
The same, I wouldn't care.
Yeah.
What's like it does bring to the point though is like if you're even so lazy, cheap, without funds that you have to just terribly copy someone else's work, that doesn't say good things.
No. But the thing is that their space probe, which was a copy of our space probe, had to do all the same things in the same sequence, and because the acceleration due to gravity in Mars is the same that for their probes it was for ours. They take the same amount of time, so you will end up with a frame by frame, similarity. Now the fact that the angles are the same and everything, it's like, well, obviously, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that they just did the most efficient thing possible. Well, while we're copying your probe, we'll copy your PR materials. But anyway.
I mean,
that was a really great idea, though, to get that landing under control. If you look at the dynamics of the way parachutes act on Mars, they really had to come up with something. You just can't get enough stopping power from a parachute.
Well, God forbid the guy landing the thing was wearing the wrong shirt. That'd be terrible.
Don't get me started.
Speaking of getting started, Serenity, I think you know more about this than I do. But
if it has to do with China.
Yeah.
You need to know in China right now, because of the flood situation, there's a massive protest happening in the province of Hebei. These people are seeking answers with the government as to why their cities have been used as flood discharge zones. Since the end of July, these two zones in teal color, they've been used to store water, essentially making the city itself flooded so that the areas in the purple can be protected from the heavy rain flood. Particularly in Zhuozhou, which is now seen as just underwater. As you can see, water level here reached so high that it's almost at the level of the gate. There hasn't seemed to be a lot of rescue effort from the Chinese military and the government to assist. So here are people searching on their own.
Well, every time you try to rescue somebody, all they do is complain and want answers. So, I mean, that's a real
God
disincentive.
Well, I mean, it's this kind of stuff. It's the fact that they're removing trees to make farmland. They're cutting down entire forests. It's the fact that their sub may have exploded in the Strait of Taiwan. Yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like China.
Well, okay, so this is an unfair question to ask, so it's totally fine if you don't know the answer, but are they expanding the farmland because they need the food or because they need the exports to get more money into the country?
The rumor is, and it's a threefold thing. The rumors are because it's Chinese government, they're not going to tell the truth. No government fully tells the truth. Let's be completely straight and fair with everybody.
Well, there are degrees, and China is, they're permanently in pants on fire mode.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, so the rumors is that they, before the pandemic hit, they bought a lot of grain. They stored it, but because it's China and they have the same problem Russia did, there was a lot of mishandling of funds, and thus the grain wasn't stored properly. So there's rumors that anywhere from half to 2/3 of all the stored grain has molded. So they're running out of food. So and in order to deal also with the lying flat problem where people don't want to work and just like are lying flat and don't want to do anything, they're now taking college kids who most college kids can't even get a job. Like, this is not American kids can't get a job thing. This is there are no jobs kind of thing. To just be clear, like, you have kids who are just graduating with engineering degrees and they can't get a job, period, anywhere. So they're taking those college kids and putting them at this is basically what was the Great Leap Forward. Is that Mao Zedong? They're basically trying to do the Great Leap Forward where they're taking college kids and people who they find on the street who are lying flat, and taking them out to the countryside to plant in the fields and stuff like that, as well as clear cut forests to grow more grain because they're growing out of food.
Are they killing them if they don't plant their quota of seeds the way they did back in the good old days?
The thing is like, to be completely honest, considering there are people who are disappearing, no one's quite sure. There's a lot of disappearances being reported in major cities of people ranging from the age of, I think the youngest one so far has been 16 to the age of 25 who are just disappearing.
Yeah. Had they recently had a blood test before they disappeared? Just checking.
You're joking, but there's been speculation that they are being used for organ harvesting.
Is it normal to take a bone marrow sample of a 6-year-old doctor? Oh, it is now. There's and like I said, the submarine just exploded in the Strait of Taiwan. So
well, do we know that?
It was at least every military person that I know who's still active has talked about it.
Did we find copies of the little red book along with some debris that just came up out of a torpedo tube? But
China's always been worse than what we've been told because China always had a bit of a stranglehold on the people, on the technology to get information out.
Thank God we don't have that problem here.
I mean, it's nowhere close to the same problem.
Well, if we don't get a handle on this misinformation, all this free speech is really threatening our free speech.
Oh boy.
Sorry, I'm just salty tonight.
I know.
I apologize, but this is fun. You'll like this.
Oh boy.
I think. Ex-political prisoner flees China for freedom on a jet ski.
He probably could outrun their navy.
South Korea's Coast Guard confirmed this week that it had arrested a man from China attempting to enter the country on a jet ski. In remarks on Wednesday, a human rights campaigner confirmed the man in question was an anti-communist dissident, Kwang Pyong, who served an 18-year prison sentence in 2017 for wearing an anti-Xi Jinping shirt.
Yeah, I think he was the guy who was arrested in Hong Kong, who everybody got up in arms about because the name sounds familiar.
Yeah, 200 miles across the Yellow Sea from Shandong province south of Beijing to the Korean peninsula. Apparently he's ethnically Korean and has family there, and it's just good lucky that he got the hell out of it. But I love this. It's a very getting off the island as the prisoner kind of solution to the thing. Just get Patrick McGowan on a jet ski and just go, just head back to Big Ben.
Well, it was kind of like a lot of Chinese have started to try it because America's made deals with Vietnam to start production in Vietnam for a bunch of stuff. And a lot of Chinese citizens are trying to run to Vietnam, but China's trying to stop people running to Vietnam because they don't want ethnically Chinese to be in Vietnam. And a lot of people are having to use cash to get out, but the yuan's worth shit. So they can't even get, like, even compared to, I think Vietnam's dong. I think no, it's Thai. No, it's Taunton. But it's like
the yuan is worth $1.
Sure thing, Skep. Yeah. But it's one of those things where it's kind of like because I watch several channels because China's the one I'm paying attention to everything, but China's the interesting one. Like truthfully, that jet ski, if as long as he didn't buy a Chinese made jet ski, it's probably better made than the entirety of the Chinese Navy.
Hey, he made it. It only had to go, 200 miles once.
Only 200.
Now, I don't know what the range is on a jet ski. I would expect you would have to have several gallons of gas or several tanks of gas that you're, because this is a Getty Images picture. This is not the actual picture of the guy actually escaping.
A jet ski can go somewhere between from 75 to 150 miles on a tank of gas.
Wow, that's a lot farther than I would have expected.
Yeah, you can. They are amazingly efficient.
Well,
that is shocking.
I know it's summertime, but I think that water is also really cold too. So that poor guy's probably dealing with cold water too, which is not fun. But there's been spy images from drones and stuff like that that have shown that the Chinese Navy's 2 new aircraft carriers aren't even 6 months old, and already their tarmacs are splitting.
Not only that, both of them have had their engines replaced. The engines they put in were too big.
Of course they were.
And they started to destroy the hull integrity. They saw these 2 aircraft carriers get pulled in. They stripped them out. They pulled the engines out of them, put new smaller engines in.
Well, I mean,
trying to get those to work. It's really hilarious.
You as a Navy man know this, but people don't seem to understand that ships are made for a specific knot speed stopping point. Like they can only go, and like going past that.
They're designed to go a certain speed. Yes.
But going past that, or even trying to go past that, is stupid.
Well, the thing is, if you're going to build a high performance ship, there's some stuff that you have to. There's some stuff that is real particular how you have to craft it, particularly the screw and the performance plant, the engine and boiler setup. No matter whether you're getting your heat from oil or uranium, and it's there's a lot to that, and a lot of that is this kind of long-term knowledge the Navy has managed to keep in it. It's technical knowledge. The technical knowledge store in the Navy is really substantial. There's a lot of really particular, very one-of-a-kind type information that goes into building a ship. There's nothing quite like building a ship and ship's performance and the various systems aboard a ship and how they run. There's just a ton of stuff to know. You never really know enough.
That's why those 2 treasonous bastards in Southern California are so significant. It's like you think, oh, well, what's the big deal? Well, that's the kind of information they were feeding back to the Chinese.
Goddamn. Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to step on you.
It's like gold.
It's one of those things, like I learned a little bit about ships just from reading. There was a book about the Carpathia, which is the ship that saved the survivors from the Titanic.
Right.
And the fact that she was only graded for like 14 knots and she went 17 for like 3 hours. And she shouldn't have been able to do that considering she was just like a mid-level ship. But sorry, that was me going off on a side tangent. But it's one of those things where it's kind of like, it's I have a feeling in my lifetime, probably not for another 20, 30 years, unless Skep lives for a even longer time than he already has. I I think it's one of those things we will only be able to start seeing like the tip of the iceberg of how much stuff China did to its own people.
Oh yeah.
Because it's like, whew, there's a lot of rumors coming out about stuff, and it's like, and the problem is like you can't take too much of it. You have to take it with a grain of salt because it's like you don't know what is propaganda from your own side or propaganda from the other side. So it's like you kind of have to kind of just go with what you have in it. But at the same time, it's like, God, I hope you're not that evil. I really
you have to use your bullshit detector, and mine is finely tuned. I mean that news article about the guy getting his house torn down. I mean, my spider sense was tingling at the first 3 syllables into that thing. I'm like, this something about this is not right, and somebody is not good at their job. But can we talk about otters now?
Let's talk about otters.
I mean, I know Sora's not here, so I almost feel guilty doing this, but the show must go on. So they have still not caught Otter 841. So we're not going to spend the next 10 minutes talking about how they haven't caught him. But there are some things in this news article where they're talking about when the weather's good, they send out these teams of people who supposedly have methods and processes for finding this thing. Now, 841 has a radio transmitter of some kind, and I didn't know what. All I know is there's a radio transmitter, and they should be able to locate the little bastard, but for some reason, they just can't seem to catch it. There were 5 people on the boat with 2 traps and a few more on shore with antennas and scopes. So they've got teams of people with telescopes, radio locators, and people out on the water on boats all trying to catch this otter, and they can't. Which
that's
begs
terrifying.
the question, how in the hell is this supposed to work? Now, this is probably a little bit before your time, but to my mind, when I think of this, I think back to when I was a kid, and I think back to this, which was the TV show of all TV shows. It came on right before. This is Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. Listen to that theme.
There it is.
Fuck yeah.
Oh, this used to play on PBS.
I know.
Because I remember, wasn't this the, oh God, I can't remember the name of the dude.
Watch out for those jaws, Jim.
Isn't that
they can
fantastic?
cut a man in half.
This was so great. Before Disney would come on, when I was a little kid,
Perkins.
they would have this with let me turn the sound down a little bit on it. So there's Marlon Perkins, director of the St. Louis Zoo, and then he'd have his faithful sidekick, Jim Fowler. There he is. And they would go on to do whatever they would do with the animals.
That sounds dirty, Harry.
The snake Jim is handling.
But aside from the fact that I really feel like society is missing out. I mean, I know not everything old is good, but the quality of production on these shows, just in the music department, is just so much less. This is just a show that was branded by an insurance company to get the name of Mutual of Omaha out to the audience. And it's got that kick-ass theme that's like super memorable. If you've ever watched that show, you hear the first few notes of that and go, hey, wait, is Jim trying to circumcise a water buffalo today? What's going on? I mean, it just immediately comes back to you. That's like a powerful theme. I mean, it's not like the greatest theme ever written, but all of this stuff from like the 60s, 70s, and 80s, a lot of it just had way better music associated with it. But so when I thought of radio locators, this is sort of what I'm used to. This is what's in my brain.
Just as the work on the immobilized bear is completed,
polar bears.
Additional scientists are arriving to assist in the next phase of the project. Accompanying them here is another plane with specialized
Kefki.
with which the scientists can track the bear.
So we're tracking bears.
By an extremely sophisticated radio collar.
Okay, so so basically they would track these bears and shoot them from the air with dart guns, and then go down and put this big ass collar on the bear. Now, I've seen pictures of 841, and nowhere did I see a giant thing that looks like an otter-sized self-harm vest. With batteries and stuff. It's like, how the hell are they going to work this? So I started looking at this stuff a little more rigorously. Hold on a second.
You go down a rabbit hole, Harry.
I did. I did go down a rabbit hole. Let's see. I want page 6 and 7. Excuse me. So how do they actually catch these things? Well, they do it using something called a Wilson trap. Let's see. I have to switch over here.
It was invented by Dennis Mitchell. Just kidding.
Okay. So can you see that okay?
Yes.
Okay.
If anybody got that joke, let us know.
So they actually have these traps, and they swim around underneath the water with these motorized gears, like these electric scuba things underneath the water, and then try to go up and catch the otters. So here's a photo of them sneaking up on some otters from down below and going, "Gotcha, bitch." And so they would regularly catch these otters, test them, and then release them, and then come back and catch them again later for follow-ups. I didn't know we were doing an alien abduction number on sea otters, but apparently this is a thing that we do. Now, the way that, sorry, this is being a little painful here. The way that they sedate them is, this is really pretty hardcore. Upon arrival at the veterinary station, an onshore mobile veterinary facility, yada, yada, the capture box is floated in the ocean alongside a boat, allow the otter to rest and thermoregulate. Following this 10 to 20 minute soak, the animals were moved to the veterinary laboratory for sedation, physical examination, collection of morphometric data, yada, yada, yada. The sea otters were chemically immobilized using standard doses of the opiate fentanyl citrate and metolazepam hydrochloride. Citrate, sorry. And metolazepam, midalazepam. I can't do that. MID.
So it's a long-acting.
Yeah, hydrochloride. Yeah.
Benzodiazepine.
Okay. Administered intramuscularly. So they're basically anesthetizing him with fentanyl and diazepam-like stuff.
Yeah.
Them otters are high.
Very, very similar to Valium.
I mean, holy crap, they are not
good.
They're not messing around.
Poor otters.
Well, yeah, I mean, the fentanyl will take care of all the consciousness stuff, and then what the benzo does is it acts as a smooth muscle relaxant.
Yep.
And it's very effective.
And when it's time to wake them up, they give them a shot of naltrexone hydrochloride, essentially Narcan.
Yeah, right.
So these otters were abducting them, giving them a hot Cosby, and then
probing them.
Yeah, and then
Cosby,
and then doing all this stuff. Now, in addition to this, we're also embedding in the otters. God, this is really unstable. I apologize when I had to resize it. So they examine them, check their little teeth. Look at their little teeth there. It's like, those are remarkably white teeth for a wild animal, I have to say.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, their teeth are so cute.
And then they actually do surgery to implant these little things. So they have various kinds of things that record the diving patterns of the thing at different times, so the depth underneath the water. And they've got that little telemetry thing, which is the thing on the right. So under sea. So the reason we can't see the transmitter is it's there. And so if they want to keep track of this otter every few years, they basically have to pull them out and give them a new battery. They're also tagging them sort of like you would do a dog, where they have the subcutaneous tag, because they'll put tags on their flippers, but they often get lost. So they're chipping them just like they would a dog.
So what you're saying is alien abduction.
Essentially. Now, the fine...
that looks like the probe that every crazy person who's ever been alien abducted says they have.
Yeah. So the fine people at NASA Ames Research Center and the Monterey Bay Aquarium are actually working on a new generation of probes just for the purpose of tracking otters. And they're looking for something that they can connect to a flipper that has a little solar panel on it so that it recharges, so it just runs forever. But also that has the ability to withstand their black bear levels of bite strength.
Yeah. I was going to say that they could tear it up.
Because surgically implanting this thing, and every few years sneaking up underneath of them and then giving them a bunch of fentanyl and then sedatives. I don't know. Yeah. Are we really helping at this point? I mean, I understand why it's necessary.
We're the alien abductors. That's what we are. We're the alien abductors.
Yeah, I think our credibility or gravitas when it comes to making claims about the alien abductions has been decreased somewhat. Hi, Kefki.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm okay.
You showed up at kind of a weird spot.
Well, yeah, that's poor otters.
I know. That's how I feel about it. The poor otters.
Sucks to be an otter.
Was I muted?
I don't
Part
think
of it,
so.
not
I
all
think
of
you were
it.
just not talking.
Oh no, I was eating a chip. I wanted to make
You
sure
were
I muted because I didn't want the bat.
self-muted.
Gotcha.
You were self-muted for a little bit, but you're good.
Oh, okay. Okay, so no crinkling of the bag.
No crinkly of the bag.
No crinkling of the
Okay.
bag. So this may be, unless they actually catch the damn thing, we may not have an otter update for a while because I'm running out of things to say about otters. I got to tell you. I don't
They're
understand.
cute, but they're also evil.
Yeah, nasty little river bastards. Anyway,
The giant Amazonian otters are terrifying.
so there was one thing.
That's
in
the
here.
only white meat I really like. Anyway.
Let's see. This is actually a really interesting paper, as papers go. But there's some stuff in here about the range of the otters. It's actually pretty interesting overall. I like this, kind of like this paper. I'm not a biology person, so I don't normally read these sort of things. But let's get back to what we normally do.
It's much more fun as an avocation than as a vocation.
Yeah.
I assure you.
So, there's some research that sort of suggests that the Central California coast may be a thermal refuge from climate change. So while ocean temperatures are going up in a lot of other parts of the world, they're staying remarkably stable here.
So they're saying that fish are coming out of the sea and living and moving inland?
Yeah, they're getting a little place in Pacific Grove. And
nice.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, PG's nice.
Yeah. Now, I
Just
don't know
come
if this is necessarily true, but it does seem like the waters have been somewhat more stable. So they've been studying this since 1978 because Diablo Canyon it creates heat, right? And waste heat goes into the water. And this is one of the things that I saw at the visitor center when they had their propaganda. They said, here's a tank with water from the outflow temperatures, and there's a fish that's alive and happy. And then here's a tank where, there isn't, and the fish is alive and happy. Look, that proves everything. Happy fish, right? But
Fish like water. Who knew?
They've studied the entire coastline for like 20-something years, and it looks like Central California coast is staying fairly stable. And temperature is massively important, as this next thing lets us know.
Well, Aaron, the octopus is normally a solitary creature, so imagine the surprise of marine scientists who found thousands of them in the deep sea, and now their years of research has finally been published.
Researchers call this the Octopus Garden. It's the largest known octopus nursery in the world, with about 20,000 of these 8-legged cephalopods called pearl octopi. They're located 2 miles down and 80 miles off the coast of Moss Landing.
It was a moment where we saw it and we all...
Yeah, they are not supposed to be there. Octopuses or octopi or whatever the correct term is do not normally hang out in groups like this. But they found this huge nursery of them because there are things are seismically active out there, and there are some vents off the coast that apparently produce just this nice little isolated pool of warm water where the octopuses hang out. There's a little bit more
So
information.
suddenly they turn into communists?
Or
Yeah, exactly.
Are they all plotting to summon Chihulu?
Yeah, well, they're counting
I'd
on
like
their
to
8 fingers.
Under the sea in an octopus's garden in the shade. That's all I.
It was a moment where we saw it and we all took a breath. We all got
Good for
excited
her.
together.
This is
and
her
we just
happy
started
time.
babbling about what
her have
could
her
this
happy
mean?
time,
Why were
Harry.
they here?
Amanda Codd of Moss Landing Marine Laboratories is one of a group of researchers that first made the discovery in 2018 by accident while surveying Davidson Seamount, an extinct underwater volcano.
I'm actually a sponge
It's not
researcher,
extinct
and
enough,
I was
if you ask
invited
me.
to come along
Of course
to
she's
help
a
identify
sponge
the sponges
researcher.
that were out there.
Yeah.
And
Hey, now.
instead, we stumbled upon
Watch your sass,
this
sir.
octopus garden.
She's
5
very
years later,
similar
a
to
new
a sponge.
first-of-its-kind study, co-authored by Mbari and other researchers,
You know how hard she's
has
trying
the
to be that
answer.
energetic,
It's found
Skep?
that the octopi migrate, drawn by the thermal springs.
I would be
At about
happy.
51 degrees Fahrenheit, it's the perfect temperature for the eggs.
We were able to measure their metabolism, and we found that their metabolism speeds up in that warmer water, and that means that their eggs develop faster than they would in the otherwise frigid waters.
Normally at
Their
frigid
eggs?
depths like
Their
this,
eggs.
the eggs take
Eggs.
5 to 8 years to hatch. But here, it takes under 2 years. It's a
Yeah.
discovery.
So it takes 5 to 8 years under normal conditions, but here in the Happy Octopus Garden, it takes less than 2. That's why there are 20,000 octopuses off the coast of Moss Landing.
all writings in.
So temperature
Well,
matters.
I think we know the next super race of Earth is going to be octopi.
But in terms of ocean habitat, temperature is incredibly important. Sometimes you need to keep it cold. Sometimes you want it to be hot. So when you say that an area is thermally stable and it seems to be avoiding some of the problems that are happening other places, that's actually pretty significant because ocean temperatures are just massively important. So is that all of the nature stuff? Please tell me yes, Harry. Okay, I'm going to skip this next thing. Oh, this was good. So, Andy No keeps getting beaten up by Antifa people.
Yeah.
It looks like
Kind of a
a
shtick
judge
at
actually
this
did the
point.
right thing. So 3 of these fine individuals have actually been told to pay Andy No $100,000 apiece.
Yeah, they'll be good for it. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Now, the one on the left actually looks like a drawing I found in a textbook one time on what autism looks like.
Caved his face in.
Yeah.
It's like they punched him in the eyes. And...
Yeah.
It's like a Cartoon Network cartoon character.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this is good. I mean, the legal system is pretty screwed up, but they assaulted Andy No, and it wasn't insignificant. I mean, we don't need to go into all the damage.
He got BTF out.
Yeah.
He was hurt. He was damaged by that thing.
Well, they injured his eyes in addition to everything else, and that could have gone very, very poorly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I'm just about an eye for an eye as far as that's concerned.
So fuck these people, and whether they pay him back or not isn't the point. Any money that they do come into at any point is basically his now, so they can just suck it. That feels good. Yeah. And this actually happened. This was actually in Oregon. This was an Oregon court that actually did this. So not everything is broken. Some things still work, thank God.
Yeah.
But speaking of things that are broken, Oakland.
Svong is the owner of nearly a dozen different businesses in Oakland. He says each of them are robbed nearly every week, including Quality Tech Automotive Shop at the corner of 16th and International.
Just ridiculous.
That's just a
Oakland
pickup.
is no
That's not
longer
a
Oakland
robbery.
anymore. Oakland has become a war zone.
A battleground just to do his own job. Last Thursday, he helped his employees pick up stranded AAA drivers. Within seconds, his tow truck was gone.
Person jumped in a tow truck and took up a
He stole his tow truck.
Once again, a tow truck and destroy our camera system.
During the course of this interview, he says he saw one of the men walk by.
That's another one you need to deal with. Yeah. Breaking every car, breaking every window. The guy who just walked by? Yeah.
So this guy has, over the last year, has suffered over $1 million in theft. He's not going to have insurance for much longer. Whether he wants to be in Oakland or not isn't going to be an issue.
Yeah.
Because he's either going to run out of money, run out of insurance, or run out of patience. It's just a race to see which one happens first. Furthermore, this is just more Oakland stuff, and this is just stuff that's happened since the last show, right?
Businesses are finding it more difficult to keep their doors open in the city of Oakland. Just this past weekend, there were reported 45 robberies and 2 carjackings. KTVU's Alice Worth joins us live tonight with...
Fucking love it.
Okay, well, let's hear that again.
Reported 45 robberies and 2 carjackings. KTVU's Alice Worth.
45 robberies and 2 carjackings.
Are you kidding me?
No, I wouldn't
That's
joke
just-
about that.
That's insane.
Yeah,
That was my little city.
It's just terrible.
Crime is up year over year, especially carjackings and robberies, and criminals are getting more brazen. Tuesday morning, at least 2 businesses were held up at gunpoint. Armed robbers held up a bank on Piedmont Avenue in Oakland. Customers discovered the bank closed for the day, a sign on the door directing them to another branch.
Hey, remember when? Oh, and by the way, Boost Mobile got robbed, and it occurred to me that's kind of funny. Isn't Boost also slang for like stealing?
Yes,
Yeah.
boost,
Yes.
to boost something, a boost box.
If you
is
have a company
shoplifter's
called Boost Mobile,
aid.
shouldn't it just be called "Come in and steal from me" Mobile? I mean,
Maybe they haven't gotten robbed more.
I don't know.
Why is there so much crime here?
Well,
Because
yeah, go ahead.
California has basically, in order to fix the books, let's put it that way, certain people in government in California upped the felony level of crime. So basically, it takes more money to of equivalent value or money to hit felony level. So because of that, misdemeanors aren't worth prosecuting because they're just going to be out on the streets again anyway. So if they keep it under a certain amount or aren't caught with it, that certain amount, they can just rob whatever they do and run. And the cops can't do anything because they're underfunded and understaffed because of the stupid defund the police bullshit that you still have people in, especially Los Angeles, talking about, saying, well, yeah, it needs to happen. It's like, shut up.
Yeah.
So that's what happened. Supposedly there's rumblings of changing the law and putting it back down to a lower number, but that's not going to matter unless they can get more people to be cops.
Well, there's multiple problems, right? There was the defund stuff that happened during the summer of Floyd, right? So they said we need fewer cops. And then they said we want the cops to not essentially enforce the law against nonviolent criminals. Then they made it so that if you do get caught by the police, you can be released with no cash bail. So there you go. You can get out, no problem there. Go right back to stealing or whatever it was you're doing. I mean, it barely slows these people down. And if they do decide to actually take it all the way to court, the DA, a number of them Soros-backed, the newest one here, I think this is Karen Price. I'm trying to remember her name, but she's terrible. And she regularly goes back and gives these people incredibly light sentences. When she became district attorney, she actually undid a bunch of plea deals that had been put together to give the perps a sweeter deal, all in the name of justice and equality or equity or something. I don't know. So between the not enough police and the prosecution won't actually prosecute them, we've got a real problem. So the criminals know that it's just like, why not? There's the sheriff's department in LA. I don't have a link for this because I only just heard it on the way up here. Managed to catch 10 of the little bastards who were involved in one of the organized crime robberies that have been going on down in LA. In this particular case, it was like a Nike store. And they arrested 10 of these little bastards. And they go through this whole thing. It's like 5-minute story where they're talking about all the effort that went into finding them and the whole thing. And they say, but because of, there's a very good chance that the district attorney's office will just release them because they don't seem to want to prosecute nonviolent crime. The end. So I just listened to a story about how they spent all this time, energy, and manpower rounding up these 10 little bastards. And nothing's going to happen. Nothing is going to happen, including one of them who had several previous arrests for, theft, other nonviolent crimes, and had a outstanding warrant. If you have an outstanding warrant and you don't show up for jail, why are you even being let out? I'm sorry, Kefki, what did you say?
Sorry. No, folks is going to get sick of this, and a lot of people are going to end up getting shot, or they're going to try to steal something and get their ass kicked, or...
Yeah.
A lot of people are
should
going to
get
go
tired of it.
A lot of people are going to go full Dirty Harry and just start saying, well, you're not going to prosecute me either, so here we go, and just start.
Oh, no, they do, though. See, because that's violent crime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But and that's kind of the thing, is like, and it's not helping race relations because, as everyone's pointed out, when you look at this, the percentage of coloration to some of these people, they are not on the closer to 0 side. They're the closer to 100 side. So it's one of those things where it's kind of like, you're just making race relations worse, assholes.
Okay,
you're
so
not
this
making it better.
So this is depressing. We need something that's not depressing. One more otter thing. This is for you, Kefki. You're gonna like this.
I got another Clara big stretch on camera today. I was filming something else and I looked down at this memory. Oh my god. Oh, that's cute. I got another Clara.
Sorry, that's another sea otter thing.
Sea otters are so fluffy.
And this one's for you,
happy baby.
for you, Serenity. You're gonna
They're
like
very
this.
evil.
Going on a walk with real life Master Roshi and his giant tortoise friend. Now
I've seen videos of him.
Yeah.
He puts them in hats and stuff like that. Like
Yeah, he puts like a little hat on it.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And they just slowly walk. He's had him since he was like, the person was like, I think 12 or something like that. He's been a long
it's
ass
Bonchan.
Oh
and look, he's going for a walk.
Oh my god.
Tortoise is wearing a tiny little hat.
Of course he is.
Because Japan.
That's what
That
they
is
do.
so freaking adorable. Oh my goodness.
I mean, if you're going to get a pet, definitely get one that's, going to live as long as you are.
Well, I think technically the turtle's going to outlive him, isn't it?
Probably. Then he gets to keep the hat. Anyway.
But still, I just love the fact that he just like, Bantan knows the route, so Bantan just walks it.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't need a leash because he's not fast enough to run.
Mm-hmm. I like it.
It's really cool.
That's so freaking awesome. Oh my god!
Yeah, he dresses him up.
Just nothing to see here. Just a man and his giant tortoise.
A man and his giant tortoise.
There is a girl that lives in, I think it's in Southern California. She has a giant tortoise who's, I think, the same breed as that one, called Tiptoe.
Oh, maybe they should get a play
for
date.
a walk around the neighborhood because she has a little backyard thing built for him and everything.
Tiptoe through the tulips.
Yep.
That was an act. Anyway.
Yeah, he knows where he's going.
So do you feel better about stuff now?
Yeah, he
Yes.
knows.
Okay.
I wonder, does he recognize? Because turtles,
gonna
they
be
don't
fine.
got the sense of smell like other animals. Does he recognize his friend? Is that why he just walks beside his friend? Because he knows who that is?
But they actually, turtles and tortoises specifically will pair bond. They'll they have friends. There's a lot of stories about turtles even pair bonding with stuff like hippos, because they're one of the few animals that they can put with hippos that hippos can't hurt, not easily. But they will pair bond and they will join. They will have friendships and family and stuff like that. They'll do stuff fairly easily.
Well, let's just cuteness overload here. So did you see this? Rare spotless giraffe without coat pattern was born at Tennessee Zoo. Kefki, you could go see this.
Oh my god!
It's a giraffe, but it has no giraffe spots.
A colorless giraffe, a Presbyterian giraffe. Whoa.
Yeah, I don't care what these people are going to say, but yeah, look at it. It's a giraffe. It's like, what is wrong with this giraffe?
Giraffe with
Like
no
that donkey
personality.
got a long neck, yo.
Now, initially, people weren't quite sure what to make, of these
She's not
things.
wrong. He does look like a donkey, though.
So they referred to them as camelopards. So it's like, it doesn't really look like a camel or a leopard, but yeah, camelopards. So
Camelopardus is a
constellation. It is, yes. So despite David Mitchell's funny rant about the origin of the world, should I play some of that? Why not just get us copy struck? Sure,
Yeah,
why
go
not?
for it. Go for
I
the
don't care.
Yeah, it'll go over real well. Hammer, cover your ears.
Yeah.
Did you know that for centuries the giraffe was known as the camelopard? As in, a bit like a camel, a bit like a leopard. That seems extraordinary. Say what you like about the giraffe, but it's pretty distinctive. Fair enough, a lot of those various antelope derivatives are fairly interchangeable, but not the giraffe. The giraffe stands out of any lineup. You don't look at a giraffe and confuse it with a leopard, or indeed a camel. So why call it a camel leopard?
I don't know, because I think it's awesome. I think camelopard is a great name for this thing. Camelopard. See, camelopardus right there.
It reminds me of our vice president, Camilla Tard.
Camillotard, yes.
Camillotard.
Yes.
Camillotard.
But there's really no reason why you would be confused about the second part of that one. Yeah, sometimes called camelopard is the more traditional English expression for a giraffe. It comes from the Greek, can't even try, shemp, derived from shemp and shemp, which are camel and leopard, and is common until the late 19th century. Not many people who use the word or its widespread Latin equivalent have ever seen a real giraffe, and as a result, they often imagined a camelopard as looking literally like a combination of a camel and a leopard, as witnessed by the following illustration.
The drawing's not bad, though.
No. He's looking pretty swole, too. I mean, he's looking like he's in good shape. You could just put this thing on a racetrack with some greyhounds, and it would probably take the prize.
Yeah.
I love to see the drawings by people who don't know what the animals look like.
Yeah. The word giraffe,
They're
on the other
funny.
hand, was introduced into the English-speaking world only during the 16th century. It comes from the French giraffe, which in turn comes from the Arabic zaraf, Zarafa, whatever. The origin of the Arabic term is not certain, but it may come from the Persian name. Still don't care. A compound of, yeah, this is terrible. I shouldn't be reading this. Anyway, camelopard, I like that word quite a bit, and I still call them that because I can. Anyway.
And I still call our vice president camelotard.
Camelotard, absolutely, yeah, camelotard.
Camelotard.
So let's see. Do we want to talk about this? Well, maybe we'll come back to it. Because we're all in a good mood now, so let's ruin that. So
lovely.
Yeah. So Joe Biden went to Maui, and at least according to the Daily Caller and a few other sources that Geodes and I were able to find, he was not well received. Livid Maui residents flip off Biden's motorcade. I mean, I think this has already been covered adequately by everybody. I don't think we necessarily need to get into that. But we did raise the point last week that there were going to be some houses that probably did better than others. Some things got completely destroyed and other things weren't. So there's this particular example.
A whole bunch of kids got killed too.
Yeah.
In the midst of the ashen wasteland of Lahaina stands this house, surprisingly untouched by the flames that burned up everything around it. So why was this one house spared? We may never know for sure, but we can make some educated guesses.
Let's use that language to make it sound like someone planned it. Thank you, lady.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not really a surprise if you look at the video of this. They had a defensible space around the house. They had all of the crap cleared away from their house, anything that could burn. They didn't have anything growing up next to the house, and they had a metal roof. Their roof didn't catch fire.
And it's a stone house, it looks like. Too.
Or at least stucco. So because the house was actually engineered for the place where it was, a lot of these other old buildings, they'd never seen a wildfire like this before. They were totally unprepared.
Yeah.
This is not victim blaming.
On Maui. Yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
Right.
But the house, this newer house that was actually built to much more sensible standards is just fine. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a regrettable loss of life, but it's a teachable moment for these folks. Yeah. But it is a teachable moment.
Absolutely horrible. I mean, you think about losing a child and something like that.
Oh yeah, the stories are just awful.
There's just nothing worse.
Chris, there really is no good way to lose a child.
No,
there's just bad ways and worse ways, and this is one of the worst ones.
This is just awful.
Yeah.
That's so sad.
But yeah, building standards, I think, had a lot to do with why this fire spread as quickly as it did. And again, I feel guilty being the asshole pointing this out. But the fact that we see modern houses that are built to a certain standard in a certain condition being intact leads me to believe that there was some factor there.
It's kind of like there's been people online who've been pointing out like the conspiracy theory bullshit.
Yeah.
And they've just been like, this is not like people were saying Oprah's house wasn't hit. And someone went, yeah, because she lives an hour and a half away, you idiots.
Yeah.
But anyway, sorry, Skep. Continue.
Well, Skep needs to save his voice for this next thing. This is another piece of, I think, terrible journalism. Exclusive. Okay, this is an exclusive. Only the Daily Mail has this. FEMA officials are staying at $1,000 a night luxury hotels in Maui amid recovery efforts in Lahaina. I know. I'm sure you're shocked too.
Where else do they stay? Where else do they stay?
Exactly.
You ever been to Maui? Ever been there?
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing.
Have you ever been on government travel? Have you ever been on government travel? So Maui is an expensive place, first of all.
Yeah.
Even if there hadn't been a natural disaster and somebody was just going there on government business, they may not have had any other place to stay except an expensive hotel. All the cheap ones,
the only hotel that wasn't hit.
Yeah, a lot of the cheap ones burned down. And the fact of the matter is that they pay based on the there's like a GSA rate usually that they get to use. Like the government will have a contract.
You're on stream with somebody who used to adjudicate these claims.
I'm just setting this up for you.
Yeah.
Okay. That's why I said save your voice for this thing. So there are things in place. So this isn't at all shocking to me. I know plenty of people who've explained to me how this works. But, that's why I'm going to kick it over to Skep. There's nothing about this that seems unusual to me. In fact, if anything, it might even be cheap. Go ahead, Skep.
This used to happen to our guys back in 1977 to about 79. they would go over to Riyadh in Saudi Arabia, and the cost of living was amazing to us over there. I mean, it could cost you like $30 or $40 just to eat every day, which back then was a lot of money. That was, that was a lot more than you expected to pay out as at a travel claim. So they would approve a per diem rate for these guys. And it was not uncommon to see a per diem rate of what was then, $100 a day, $150 a day, which just seemed like insane amounts of money to us at the time. But that's what it cost to get around and do the business of the government in Riyadh, south of Saudi Arabia. And this is exactly the same thing. That's what those are, if you're going to stay at a hotel in Maui, you're not going to, there's no Motel 6. They don't have Motel 6s there. If they did have a Motel 6, it would be $800 a night.
Yeah.
It would be $6,000 a night. It would be amazing, like all the other hotels.
Yep.
So these people have to have a place to stay. It's a matter of practicality, and the government is of course willing to pay for it because the show's got to go on. The mission must be accomplished.
Yeah.
So they do it.
But where the boondoggle can come in, there's two obvious places where it shows up on this government travel stuff. One is when somebody goes someplace that they don't need to be, right?
Yeah.
So if a bunch of people are suddenly from, the Department of Paper Cups and Plastic Straws, I don't know, whatever.
Department of Equity.
Imagine some stupid, useless government department, and they say, well, we're going to have an off-site meeting to hammer out policy or make our bold new 5-year plan.
Going to Maui.
So then instead of going to Kansas City or someplace where the per diem is like $200 or $300 a day, they decide to go to Maui, where it's $1,000 a night plus more for meals and all the transportation and everything else. It's not going to be just $1,000 a night. So there's that thing where you go someplace you just don't need to be that has an overly high price. That's stupid. I know of a guy, not going to say who, on government travel, took his entire organization's budget for a year and did a fact-finding trip to the Ferrari factory. I kid you not. This asshole spent his entire group's budget so that he could take his girlfriend and go to the Ferrari factory. And he claimed that the reason it was valid was because they did metallurgy. That's all I can say about that.
Good God.
The other thing that happens is on something like this, somebody who has no need to be there can tag along with these people.
God.
There's going to be assholes who are going along on this who are just going to, and they may ostensibly do something vaguely resembling work, but it's not really going to be work. They're going to be there to just eat pineapples and jerk off all day. And it's going to cost the taxpayers a lot of money. So I would not be surprised if some of these assholes are not actually doing any work. No. Sound about right, Skep?
Yeah, I'd be surprised if any of them are doing any work, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
These things are real.
Well,
boondoggles are real.
Yep.
They happen a lot.
Oh, yeah. Assassin's pointing out the IRS scandal in Vegas. Yeah, exactly. Exactly like that.
Same idea.
Same idea. Different time. And these are just the ones we know about. I really feel like if I was in charge, the one part of the government I would make bigger is the Office of the Inspector General. And I would give them teeth to actually do their job. It would just
cannot make that group of people big enough.
Yeah.
The IG really does strike terror into the hearts of the people. They back when I was in the service, the IG they were it. You got a visit from them, you were going to get looked at good and proper.
Yeah. And they knew what the hell they were doing.
Oh yeah.
These were like forensic accountants and guys who knew their job.
They knew what the outcome of the investigation was before they started, before you even met them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, good times. Let's see, where shall we go from here? No, I don't want to talk about that. That's terrible. There's like this whole thing about food stamps and inflation, and I don't know. Do you want to talk about food stamps and inflation, Skep?
No, move on.
I don't want to do that. Well, let's just do something.
Food stamps are boring.
Let's do something that I think is fun. I'm calling this traditional womanhood. Okay, traditional womanhood. So I have a few things from the past that sort of talk about like the old vision of the trad wife, and not so much what it actually was, but how they were marketed to. Okay.
Oh yeah.
To be a traditional wife.
And I think it's actually in the thumbnail I put in here. What did I put in the thumbnail? I forget. Well, anyway, it's awesome. So let's just take a look at this ad from 1989. So here's an ad for, ladies, you want to keep your figures, try this.
Always dreamed of going on a fabulous yacht to a wonderful party in skinny, skinny white pants. And then I lost 8 pounds with Dexatrim.
The Dexatrim diet plan is worth from 20 million.
Dexatrim is a compound called phenylpropanolamine, which is not quite Benzedrine, but it's damn close.
It is. It is what is called an amphetamine precursor.
Yeah. So
and, you can make amphetamine from it super easy.
Yeah. I mean, it's not pseudoephedrine hydrochloride. It's the thing that they replaced that with afterward, and then they figured out people were still making meth out of it. So,
right,
yeah, and also people heart palpitations and other problems were occurring. So they were literally trying to keep women slim and attractive so they could wear their skinny white pants on a yacht by feeding them just speed, over-the-counter speed. You didn't even have to go to the doctors. Here, just have some speed because you don't want to be a chubbo, right? So that's that.
White Cross's Dexedrine used to be over the counter. Dexedrine was over the counter at one time.
It was.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, you take that and then you can go to the wedding and you'll have all the energy necessary to catch that bouquet.
That was the
there you
only
go, girls.
drug I ever took to stay awake was Dexedrine in college, and that was just to write papers.
Yep.
I just remember all of the 90s teen shows talking about speed and about how bad it was and all this kind of stuff, and so that's the stuff I remember.
So,
which is similar to the Dexatrim, not entirely, but it's
that's one little slice of it. And then there's this book, which apparently annoyed so many people because it is not aged well, and it's called "Entertaining to Please Him" by Barbara Taylor Bradford, and it has some great tips about how to be a hostess.
Just entertainment.
Here's an invaluable guide for every girl from 16 to 60 who longs to be a successful hostess. Entertaining has grown far more relaxed and informal in the past few years, reflecting today's casual mode of life. But whether you're entertaining 2 or 20, giving a gay cocktail party, or serving a sumptuous dinner, certain conventions should be observed. This informative, smoothly written book tells you how to deal correctly and gracefully with just about every social situation you may encounter. Party planning, achieving gracious decorative effects, the necessary ingredients for a beautiful dinner party, how to stage a successful cocktail party, budget-wise entertaining well in special situations. So all of that stuff about, Bewitched, where Larry Tate just magically shows up with a client and Samantha has to make a meal without using her witchcraft. That's covered in a book like this. Skep knows about this whole thing. In the Navy, your career as an officer was largely determined by your wife's ability to entertain, right?
Well, that may have been true at what time. Even when I was in, that was changing. Although the role of a wife in the military was still important, and there are a lot of social occasions you're expected to entertain as an officer. And one of the most tense evenings you can ever have is invite your CO over to your house to have dinner with you.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a little 01 and here's an 06 who is 30 years older than you are, has forgotten more about the Navy than you have learned. And and he's watching your every move. His wife is watching your every move and your wife's every move. It's an atmosphere almost like none other I've ever experienced, Harry.
But people in modern times don't seem to understand the way the culture was. I still remember like my grandparents having parties and, you know, being the kid, right? And you don't want to be part of that.
Yeah, right.
As much as I loved adults, I didn't want to be part of that. And, you know, people would come in, they would either, you know, hang up the coats, or, you know, if you had a big coat room, or they would just say, here's the first bedroom, in, you know, in the hallway, just put your coat on the bed, right?
Right.
And people would just come in and they would schmooze and they would have all these parties. And in a way, they were kind of great. Hors d'oeuvres, people having conversations, actual people talking to each other, and just having a good time with a little bit of social lubricant thrown in. I kind of almost want to just put a sign outside the door that just says free cocktails, you know, from 4 to 6, and just see who comes in.
It's you know, it was an atmosphere almost like no other, of both conviviality and yet watchful paranoia too. You had to guard your tongue. You had to be careful about what you said, and if you did something stupid, if a social faux pas, it really could affect you.
Oh yeah, I've not been invited back to a lot of parties. Sometimes that E in my Myers-Briggs assessment doesn't serve me very well. So Kefki.
Yeah.
So you know the whole meme about where they say that, you know, women, you know, should make men's sandwiches, that whole thing.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of stumbled across this. It's how do I explain this? Well, Wonder Bread for the longest time had a campaign where they had a whole series of these ads about how to basically trap men by making them sandwiches.
Jesus Christ! Is
First of all,
real?
Yeah, no, this is absolutely.
real?
Oh, Skep, this is. I wouldn't pretend that this was real if it wasn't real.
Oh my
You
God!
could trap me too with a sandwich like that.
Yeah.
I tell you.
Yeah.
Not with Wonder Bread.
Well, first of all, I don't think she's going to have any problems. Second of all,
symmetric eyes, doesn't appear to have a weight problem.
Yeah,
she's got all the parts. She should be okay.
Yeah, all the stuff's where it's supposed to be. I think she's going to be okay.
Yeah.
I
there's
found a
ham,
paper
pastrami, and all that stuff on the bread. Right.
from
right,
the American University of Wonder Bread: The Rise and Fall of an Iconic American Food.
I thought it said ironic.
Where they actually, let's see, I got it to page 36. Sorry, I'm so well prepared. Hey, at least I know which page I need to go to. 36.
Good old 36. Just coming
the
up
perfect
around
36.
The old corner.
Yeah, so this whole thing was like a big, a big advertising push that they had. With all the social changes coming along, it didn't really age particularly well. They were always trying to find ways to sell bread, whether it was this Annie Oakley thing or free Star Wars thing.
Free Star Wars.
Yeah, exactly. But it's the Wonder Bread thing with the sandwiches it was an interesting play. I don't know how successful it was, but there were a bunch of these things. So there was this particular one. I like this one, Date Bait. Are you the kind of girl boys fall in love with from the drop of your false lashes? Is your mailbox overflowing with torrid love letters? Say you play the dating game to win, but don't forget, catching his eye is one thing, keeping it's another. Be a little sneaky. Remember, boys love to eat, and they love Wonder sandwiches too. So get your Wonder going for you. So we've got Date Bait and
what is that? Jelly and mayo?
I
and
don't know.
lettuce?
We've got Boy Trap here. Again, I don't think she's going to have any problems. This particular sandwich is provolone cheese with tomato, green pepper, and onion rings.
Look at her eyes.
Hot peppers.
Look at her eyes. Those are crazy eyes.
She's definitely got crazy
stab
eyes.
you with a knitting needle when you're sleeping.
Stab me with a toothpick.
And it wasn't just Wonder Bread. Underwood spread. To build a man trap, fill picnic basket with Underwood deviled ham sandwiches. So
certainly,
apparently, long before the memes, the whole if women want to control men, just make them a sandwich thing has been alive and well. I didn't really realize for how long. I mean, I think this thing goes back a lot further than this.
It goes back
surprise
to
me.
the first sandwiches, probably.
What is an Underwood deviled ham sandwich?
It's basically potted meat So it's basically ham
exactly what it is.
in a can that's got so much salt and crap in it that it almost never goes bad.
It is like Spam.
And yet it's actually not as bad as it sounds.
But it is like Spam? It is like
No,
scientifically prepared animal matter?
Spam is weirdly felted meat with a little bit of smoke and too much salt.
Yeah, deviled ham is actually, it's kind of a spread, and it's made from mostly just chopped, cooked ham.
Yeah.
That's basically what it is. They put in, spices sometimes and usually a lot of salt, but it's basically just chopped ham.
Yeah.
I've never had that. And I
Prepared
never
sterilely and put in a hermetically sealed pot called potted meat.
Well, here's something enraging. Well, I don't know if it's enraging or if it's just sad and wrong.
Oh.
A new type of C-section allows mothers to lift babies out of their own bodies. One mother said it was intimate and empowering.
Oh, God. No.
It's a maternally assisted cesarean section. Yeah.
No. Well, let me tell you something. I have, when my daughter, both my kids were C-section babies, and I was up close and personal. Because I knew both doctors, they let me come in and get close. I mean, like 6 inches away from the incision. I was gowned and scrubbed with my camera in there, and there is no fucking way a woman can safely. You're dealing with blood vessels. You're dealing the inferior vena cava, one of the biggest blood vessels in your body, swells to 7 times its natural diameter. This thing is 2.5 inches thick, and it is full of high pressure blood. That's the kind of stuff you're cutting around to make your incision to get down there past these engorged blood vessels to the uterus so you can cut it open and get the baby out. Well, you sure as shit are not going to lift that baby. And yes, my wife was conscious for both C-sections, and they do that with a block, and but there is no way, she was still half out of her mind. They keep you crazy, with no, there's no way you would lift the baby out. That is insane.
Yeah. No,
why would they want to?
It's an insane risk.
Well, why would the ego of the person involved trump common sense?
Yeah,
why?
Yes.
Even if you can do this, why would you want to? I mean, it's not like the woman hasn't been involved up till this point and won't be involved well after this point.
She doesn't need to lift the child out.
It just seems like this one, it's kind of like, hey, OBGYN, you got this.
Phony symbol. This is a phony symbol.
Yeah. How about just doing the C-section in the way that's the safest for everybody involved, and then just that's all. That should be the only consideration. This just doesn't seem like a time for fuck around and find out.
Right. Exactly right.
What if she drops the baby? What if she?
I don't know.
What if she leans forward and causes a longitudinal fracture in a blood vessel and bleeds to death in 45 seconds? It's about how long it takes.
But Skep,
And she drops the baby.
it says maternally assisted
drop the baby
cesareans
in.
may create a more intimate birthing experience.
Yeah, fuck you for Christmas.
Fuck your not sorry.
So
Skip,
let's just say it sounds like
I hate
you're
this. I
against
hate
every
this so
part of this.
Yes, everybody. This is unmitted. This is egotism run rampant, and it's as sickening as it is unsafe.
Okay. Well, here's another one of those things where it makes my spider sense tingle, but maybe I'm being just an asshole this time.
How did you feel when you heard that the hospital had threatened a lawsuit against your mom based on what you wrote?
Well, I felt very nervous, first of all, because it was like something that I wrote, and then I felt sort of like betrayed because why are they taking it out on my mom instead of me?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, whatever your name is. So essentially, this hospital in Maine decided to let this boy's mother go. They terminated her employment. The reasons why really don't matter. So the boy decided he's one of these accelerated kids who's taking classes well above what his would normally take at his age. That he was going to take it upon himself to start a petition awareness campaign type thing, essentially claiming that there were issues that needed to be looked into because his mom was fired that may involve the safety of the hospital. So he started making these sort of claims and inferences about this as part of this this activity, and the hospital decided to threaten his parents, because he's a minor, with legal action if they didn't stop him from running around defaming them publicly. So I'm of two minds on this thing. On the one hand, yeah, hospitals are terrible, and they do dreadful things, like they'll charge people for stuff without telling them ahead of time how much it's going to cost, and just so many things that hospitals do wrong. Fuck hospitals. But at the same time, why would any business not have the ability, if they felt they were being defamed, to not use the legal system in this manner to get people to stop?
Yeah.
Now, maybe his claims are all completely justified, but the fact of the matter is he has a conflict of interest because his mother was terminated. So it's all very suspicious to me. But this Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, FIRE, who normally does things which I completely agree with, seems to be defending this boy because they're making it into a free speech issue. And
what are they saying?
Well, they're claiming that putting pressure on them might just be wrong. That they shouldn't be putting pressure on his parents because it's just freedom of expression. But when is freedom of expression the guiding principle, and how do you balance that against the company's right to defend themselves if they're feeling they're being defamed? Because we shouldn't just assume the hospital's automatically guilty.
No.
Or that the kid is automatically wrong. The meta question here is, how do you, in these types of cases, how do you balance things? And I certainly don't want to see the court of public opinion be the thing that we use as the defining standard. Yeah.
Yeah, of this. Yeah. Yeah, it's almost on a case-by-case basis.
Well,
there aren't a lot of guiding principles here other than common sense.
Well, I think the way that people seem to want it is, they want to have some mechanism that's biased against the big company.
Right.
Because we like the sort of the Samson and, David and Goliath type story, right? We always like to fight for the underdogs. We want to tilt the scale toward the underdog.
We're always for David until we forget that Goliath is how we get our eats and sheets.
Yeah, well, maybe David's mom wasn't very good at her job. Maybe
not.
Maybe David's mom was just annoying to have around. Maybe they just found somebody who would do the job for $1.50 an hour less. There's all sorts of reasons why they might have gotten rid of the woman.
Yeah.
So, from what I can find out, it's because this kid penned a petition to a politician about the state of patient practice at that one hospital.
Yeah.
And no one's really talking about too much. Like, his mom was apparently researching patient safety history and then was asked to leave because she was looking into patient. So
sounds provocative, but it doesn't prove anything.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, no one's saying anything. Like, it's a lot of doublespeak. It's a lot of people repeating the same thing over and over again, but saying it differently. So this way you don't pay attention to the fact that no one's saying anything. And that ticks bells in my head for everything, for both sides. So it's one of those things where it's kind of like several people are not telling the entire truth here. I just don't know who's more not telling the entire truth.
Yeah. Well, Assassin's asking, what are the claims against the hospital? Right. So there's that. And then what are the grounds for the hospital to target the parents? Well, he's a minor. They are responsible for the things that he does. So targeting the parents is actually legally the only thing they can do.
Well, the hospital is claiming that his mother is the one who actually penned it, not him. She just used him to cover her tracks.
Yeah, well, that's a lot like somebody in Chicago handing the gun to the 14-year-old and telling him to go out and do something.
So it's one of those things where it's like, I mean, he's intelligent enough to have done it, and God knows he probably heard his parents talking about it.
Intelligent enough is a good description. I don't know. There's something about this kid annoys me.
I know he annoys me too. Like it pings my smart ass, that too smart kid in like high school that you just kind of want to hit.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah,
it's interesting. His mother was a doctor. Fire asserts that Northern Lights threatened to sue Cornane's mother, Dr. Ann Urid, a former pediatric intensive care physician at EMMC, for defamation. The healthcare provider believes that she was the one who actually penned Cornane's petition, letter, and other communications, something the boy and his legal team denies. It's sad to see a hospital try and stop people from talking about important things, especially when my concerns were about patient safety, said young Cornane, who is a UMaine junior studying computer science. It felt like they were trying to undermine my credibility because my age and dismiss what I was saying completely. So there you go.
Yeah. It's just a bunch of meanie ad hominem attacks on him because he's just a boy. But in my mind, I almost don't care. Even if he did write it himself, the parents are still responsible for his behavior in this regard. Whether he wrote it or whether his mom wrote it or whether she helped him build the papier-mâché volcano, it doesn't matter to me.
They are responsible for his behavior, but is it legal for the company to go after an employee who's undoubtedly a doctor, is an exempt employee? So you're not going to have a Fair Labor Standards Act problem, but you're still going to, she can still basically say that, being unfairly terminated would be a tort. She could claim that was an act that was done to hurt her, to torture her. That's where tort comes from.
Yeah.
Torture comes from.
And again, to be clear, I am not picking a side here. I'm just imagining the different ways this sort of thing could go. But to my mind,
the fact that
go ahead,
that this woman was a doctor, that tells me it indicates some probabilities. Probabilities are that she had an awful lot to do with this, that her son wasn't suddenly the concerned uninvolved third party, but instead was just a proxy for her. I don't doubt that that's probably true. That this kid suddenly got all militant and interested. He's not had any other interest in any other healthcare thing, but suddenly he's all fascinated about this and goes after it. No. This is about his mom. This is all about his mom, I think.
Yeah, maybe.
It's his
just
mom.
guessing, just speculating.
Yeah, and if he wasn't running around trying to bring all this attention to himself, he was just some young guy studying computer science and working hard, I really wouldn't have an issue with the kid. Just something about this feels kind of sus to me.
I think the mom is using the kid. That's what
I think that might be what I'm picking up on.
Well, that's what the hospital's asserting, is that she used him.
I'm kind of
well,
with
it's
them.
like, well, the thing is like, 1 second, Kefki, and then I'll let you go. I'm sorry. So he wrote a letter to the editor for his school newspaper, his university, and said this about staffing shortages and all this kind of stuff at the hospital. That also had a link to the petition that he had raised that was going to the local Democratic senator of his district, as well as he started a Twitter purely for that. So the hospital's asserting that she's using him as a cover to do this, not him doing it.
Well, he may be feeling the pressure to do something for his permanent record in terms of social activism, and he just picked up on this.
Well, there's something else here. Northern Light had a very interesting statement. They said that he was acting at Dr. Ured's direction, meaning his mother's direction, and he wrote the quote, false and malicious statements about one of our longest tenured, highly skilled, dedicated, and competent physicians. So that tells me that some poobah there at the clinic got insulted by somebody who said, this senile old bastard shouldn't be treating patients still. And Northern Light got all upset about that and said, boy, that sounds like something that's coming out of Dr. Ured's mouth. Screw them. We'll fire her. You know, for them to fire an MD, that's unusual. That's clinics it just doesn't happen very often. And so this is a big deal. This is a big deal. Fire provider, very unusual.
Yeah.
Very unusual.
Well, anyway, I thought the thing raised some interesting questions, so that's why I thought I'd bring it up. Honestly, I don't go into a lot of these things having an opinion, and this is one where I'm just suspicious of everybody. I saw the words mind reading in the chat, and it's like, no, I'm not mind reading anybody. I'm just looking at trying to figure out what's the most likely thing based on experience and the facts is presented.
I'll mind read for you. I'll mind read a little bit for you. This is one of these things where this letter comes in. This is so-and-so. She's still mad at, this old guy who's been here for a long time. And, she's using her son as a stalking horse. This is bullshit. We're going to fire her. That's what happened here. This old guy got insulted and he said, either her or me is leaving. One of the two of us is leaving. And they decided to keep the old guy.
There is a role where technology could play here. There are systems that essentially look at the structure of written language. They could take a writing sample from her that they have in their records that she produced, and compare it to the letter and look for structural similarities. It's not that hard.
It's brutally accurate too. I've seen this.
So that kind of assessment, if it is true that that's what's happening and they're making that claim, I wonder why they're not bothering to back it up. Maybe they should hire this kid as a computer science consultant. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well,
no, they don't care.
Kefki, there's a little bit of a timeline thing you're getting slightly off. He wrote the letter and all that kind of stuff, and then she was fired.
Oh, I thought he wrote the letter because she was fired.
I thought it was the other way around too.
No. He wrote the letter, did the petition, and started the Twitter before she was fired, and then she was let go because they are claiming that she is using him to speak for herself and that kind of stuff.
Well, it does sound like they're circling the wagons, is what it sounds like.
Yeah.
We don't know if it's an old guy or something, or who it is, but it does have that sort of flavor of circling the wagons in the thing. And they may the hospital may be remarkable pieces of shit. Yeah.
Well, and she's behind it.
Well, and they probably, if they have the proof, they'll take it to the lawsuit that fire started, and if they don't have proof, it'll all get kicked out, and she'll probably win like $100 million lawsuit.
Well, the kid's got free lawyers. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out.
Yeah, although the free speech tactic, I'm not entirely with them on, but we'll see what it does.
Well, free speech is one thing, libel and slander are another.
Yes.
You have the. And we don't need to get into the distinction of why those things are different right now, because we are 2 hours and 3 minutes into the show, which means we're done. We're done. We've done it again. Another 2 hours of
slander
entertainment.
Is spoken, libel is written.
Yeah.
Just had to get that in there.
All right. Well, anyway, this has been your Minions of the Zoo for Saturday. Thank you, panel. Thank you, chat. The zoo is closed.
Thanks for having us, Harry.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
If I can just find the button.